Problem I noticed with a lot of tutorials and teaching materials on Git is that it gives the learner the explicit commands that they need to execute. And if they go through this tutorial and they copy and paste those commands in, they will pass the exercise and not necessarily be any the wiser as to what they did or why it worked. So that when they come to try and use Git for themselves on a different project, they then have to start learning it again from scratch. The way I've tried to solve this problem with GitRuler is that we don't give the students explicit commands that they need to execute. We explain what they need to achieve, the outcomes that we want them to achieve, and a tool will then give them feedback when they successfully achieve those outcomes. So they need to discover the commands for themselves, and they can use cheat sheets or whatever to do that. Not that one though. And they'll get that feedback, and through that process of learning and practicing these exercises, then they will learn. And the fact that the exercises are relatively easy to create and share means that we can just create a bank of these exercises, and students can practice. So I'm just going to complete one of these exercises to show you how this works. So I'm in my terminal here, and I have cloned it. And in this repository are these instructions. There's a README file that contains these instructions here. Within this folder, if I run GitRuler, so that's Java -jar GitRuler, it's telling me that currently none of these steps have passed. I've not completed any element of this exercise, which is correct. But by going through and completing these steps, we should see these things turn green. So let's do that. So very simple exercise. We're going to use a text editor to add some text to one file and some other text to a different file. And then we're going to commit those changes. So let's do that. So I'm using Vim here to add Manfred Del Monte to the employees file. And then I'll also use Vim to add Peaches to another file. If I run git status, I should see that these two files have indeed been modified. If I run GitRuler, we still haven't successfully passed any of these checks because adding the text to the file on its own isn't doing anything as far as Git's concerned. So we need to commit these changes. So we know that we can do that by doing files, products, git add files employees. See that those have been staged, and then I can git commit. And it tells us the message. The message we want is, so the steps are discover what files need to be changed. So we did that using git status. We staged those changes, and then we're committing those using the message add Manfred and Peaches. There we go. And I check all my changes are committed. So I use git status to check all my changes are committed. So if we now run GitRuler again, we can see that these three things have successfully been achieved, and we score 30 out of 30, which is a perfect score. To quickly show you how that works, in this instance, GitRuler is only really checking the new commits that have been made by the learner. In some exercises, we might want to look at the history. They might need to tag an old commit or do something like that. And so a GitRuler exercise exists in a repository which has a history, so that's necessary. Otherwise, it's just a set of instructions that we've seen. And this configuration file has a rules section that describes the different checks it's going to carry out. So here we were checking that the employees text file contained the text Del Monte using the rule file contains in head. and then we can give messages to the learner if they. This is the instructions that they have. If we turn on sort of verbose, if we run GitRuler in a verbose fashion, it might print out these alternative hints and things like that. And that's it. And so by completing these exercises, the learner learns. We can use this as a form of assessment by asking students to push these repositories, and then we can run GitRuler to calculate a grade from that.